this is Russ. Yeah, I'm back on the road again. You may notice that I don't have any sleeves on. It's about 68 degrees out right now. It's pretty windy, actually. Probably should have wore some long sleeves at least, but I didn't. I didn't wear the sweatshirt either. But it is expected to rain today. And with the wind blowing so hard against me right now, I could barely hear myself talking. This is usually what happens. I'm doing one thing that's a little bit different though. Instead of having my audio recorder clipped to my belt in the back behind me, which usually pulls my pants down, I have it on a little case. Yeah, a little case here. I don't know if you can see that. You can see it in the mirror maybe. So I have that just kind of like slung over my shoulder. And the audio recorder is sitting in there. So my hope is that it'll make it a little bit easier. Although I'm sure I'll feel it a little bit in the shoulder. It's not that heavy. It's probably like a pound or something like that. But still. So I am riding the Himiway Zebra. Yeah. And I haven't taken this bike out since I think the last review of it. But I figured I'd take it out today because I got to drain this battery too. Every one of the batteries I had charged to the max, to 100%. But again, like I mentioned, I've got to drop all these batteries down to maybe 70% levels, something like that. Just to keep the batteries in good condition over the winter months and the like. Although I may take this bike out again, and when that happens, I'll just charge it up before I take it out. But since we can't keep them all at 100% and ride them all, I figured the best thing is probably keep them down to about 70% level. So every one of my bikes have to be depleted down at least maybe 25-30% of its power. I suggest you do that too. If you're not riding anymore for whatever season time is over for you, bring it down. It'll be better for your batteries in the long run. Let me just pass the guy that has electric XP. It looks like one of the original 1.0 versions. So the Zebra still has a little bit of a brake squeal going on, but that's okay. As long as it's not like major squealing, I'm okay with that. Thing is, I can't be changing every single one. I mean, there's so many little odds and end things that you can do to fix up your bikes, but I've got too many to deal with. So if it has a little bit of squeal, so be it. Squeal's coming from the rear brake on this one. You know, they kind of vary, right? Some of them seem to squeal from the front, some of them squeal from the back. So I'm just riding around the streets again. I just need to put in maybe about 10 miles or so, give or take. And that should bring me down to the proper range. Rain is supposed to happen within the next hour and a half to 2 hours. So we can see that the sky is a little bit dark. It's not the bright sunny skies we're used to, and you can kind of tell it's ready to rain. You know, you can tell just from the wind, the smell in the air. You know, you can pretty much tell. I want to get this ride in before it happens, though. Got to get as much done as I can, and then we can get back to really doing the real rides and stuff. And once again, I'm not pedaling at all. I'm using the throttle because I want to wear out the battery a little bit. And the throttle is the fastest way to do it. Because typically from a stop, if you throttle up, your wattage is going to peak really high. And then it tapers down. You know, the one thing that's good about bikes, when you're doing even when you're doing something like this, okay, you have a lot of rolling going on. I mean, there's a lot of coasting, right? Now the problem with coasting when you're trying to wear out the battery, it doesn't do anything for the battery. You got to keep constant motor movement going on in order for you to wear down the battery. But this bike is kind of going kind of fast, and of course I don't want to go that fast. So I tend to throttle up and then coast a little bit, then throttle some more and coast a little bit. So the thing is with the Zebra, we know from our battery range tests, we got 30 miles out of this bike. I figure to drop that thing down to 75% levels, it's going to take a little bit of doing. It's not going to happen right away. Now, one thing I don't like is when the wind is blowing. I don't know how much of the wind you can hear, but I can't even hear myself talking. But when you're moving forward and the wind is blowing against you, you kind of feel like, okay, you're fighting the wind, but when that wind blows sideways on you, it feels like you're going to tip over, doesn't it? I feel it does. It's like pushing along the sides. I did notice last year, while riding during the fall season, how windy it actually had gotten, and constantly feeling like my bike was being pushed sideways. Not a good feeling. You feel like it's just gonna take over, and finally you'll go knocked over, you know. And then when you're riding into the wind, then all I hear is the wind howling against my ears. But luckily for us, this microphone does help out. It doesn't have really bad wind noises because the windscreen on this mic is really good. Positioning plays a big factor too for those of you guys who do record your own stuff. I mean, I had to play a lot with the positioning of the microphone and the angling of the microphone and everything. And you hit the right sweet spot, it cuts out a lot of the wind noise. Now, as far as the audio recorder is concerned, I'm using a Zoom H4n, which is an older model. I think they have newer versions now. I don't know what they call it, H4n Pro. I have no idea what the current models are called. This one I've had for quite a few years, actually. Synchronizing that together with your camera is something that your software hopefully will do for you. If not, you have a lot of effort to try to match the voice with the visuals. Luckily for me, the software that I use to do my editing, which is Apple's Final Cut Pro 10, or X as some people would like to say. I believe it's 10 because it's a Roman numeral. It syncs it up automatically for you as long as you have audio recorded on your GoPro, and then you have audio recorded on the digital audio recorder. You should be able to line it up automatically for you. Before I actually got the software, and I was using what is the other one from Adobe? Premiere. Yeah, that probably has the same thing. I just didn't know how to do it at the time, so I was manually lining up audio with visuals. Eventually, you get out of sync. If it's a long amount of if there's a long amount of video to go to synchronize, it's going to get out of sync after a while. So yeah, having the software do it, much better. Now the audio that goes on to the GoPro has to be crystal clear too, because if your audio on your GoPro, it's got tons of wind noise, there's no way for it to be able to match up. It's got to hear audio from the GoPro to match to the audio on the digital audio recorder, which means you need some type of windscreen on the GoPro as well. Typically, what they have out there is they have these little, what they call dead cats. I don't know if you know what that is, a dead cat. Dead cat filter is kind of like a fuzzy looking filter. You put that over the GoPro microphones so that it kind of cuts down some of the wind noise going into the GoPro. That way it hears a clean signal from both the lavalier microphone as well as the GoPro microphone, and then it could match it up. Otherwise, all it hears is wind trying to match up against audio that's your voice, and that's never going to happen, right? So yeah, you got to have clean audio from the GoPro. Another benefit too of putting that dead cat filter on top of the microphone openings from the GoPro, and I have two openings. There's one in the front and one on the top. Is that if the digital audio recorder were to ever kick out and not record, I still have the audio from the GoPro. Now, typically, that audio is not that great for this type of application because it picks up everything. So it's going to pick up the ambient sounds, which is, of course, you know, the whine from your tires, and of course maybe a little bit of wind noise along with it, ambient noises that it hears, plus you. So you gotta get lost in the shuffle. The whole point with having the external microphone, see, I noticed the stop sign. Of course, stopped a little slow. Is getting better audio is always more important. So, anyways, I thought I'd throw that in there since kind of dawned on me with all this wind kicking up. It might be a good time to talk a little bit about some of the technical things that I do to make these recordings. Now, I mentioned to a friend of mine that I saw at the wedding. She was the photographer for the wedding on Saturday. That I was making 6 videos a week. She was shocked. I mean, I know they tried to do some YouTube videos too, I think to promote their business and the like. So they know how much effort it takes to do. She heard that I was doing a video a day. She was really kind of surprised. But, you know, I told her essentially the GoPro does most of the work for me. I think we hit a dead end here. We have to swing around this cul-de-sac. I forgot we're in the cul-de-sac area again. This whole area is all cul-de-sacs, it seems. So I'm just riding and talking and recording. But of course, the GoPro segments the video. So let's say you have an hour's worth of video. You might have like 6 files, because GoPro actually cuts up the video into individual files. And their logic behind that is if the file were to crash, you only lose part of the file rather than losing all 1 hour of the file. But the problem with it is, of course, that means you have to edit those files together to create one continuous file. So this is what I do when I do editing, is I have to find the beginning and ends of all that, match up the audios with it all, and then put anything else I want to put on there, like if I want to put some titles there, if I want to put some photos to show you, I'm trying to make a point or something. That's all within the editing functions. So that takes time. So I get to see the episodes that you see. I live it, and then I get to see it on the editing. And usually after it's done rendering and uploaded to YouTube, I'll watch it again just to make sure everything looks right. And then I release it on YouTube. I usually upload everything. At least a day beforehand, because it does take some time for YouTube to create the HD version of the video, which is typically 4K for me. And of course, 4K files are larger, so that means it takes even longer. Let's go this way. takes even longer to do the upload, and takes even longer for it to process. Now, the one benefit we have is once you pass a certain level in YouTube, they give you better compression. The quality of the compression is quite noticeable. If you have bad compression on YouTube, everything looks a little fuzzy. If you have high quality compression, then things look better, but it takes longer to process because YouTube has to do its own processing too. I can't remember exactly what level you need to be at. Maybe it's 2,000 subscribers, 3,000 subscribers, something like that. And then at that point, every video you upload gets the better compression ratio. But up until that point, you don't get the best compression ratio, so your videos never look as good. Okay, let's see, let's go this way. And you can trick YouTube a little bit this way, though. If you do shoot in 4K, or at least 2K, I think it is. If you shoot at least that way, you will get the better compression. Now, of course, since these files are so large, I have to get high-speed internet. And really, the high speed to me, it doesn't matter that it streams high speed on a download very well, which it does. What's more concerning for me is how well is the upload. If the upload is slow, that's not going to help you any. Which way do we go? I don't think it's this way. Once again, as I'm talking, I'm not paying attention to where I'm riding. We're going through the cul-de-sacs again. Oh man. Did I tell you my sense of direction is really bad? Did I tell you that? Get lost in a minute. This is why that GPS is critical for me. But we're not GPSing right now. So, yeah, you have to pay a little bit for that, unfortunately. So I pay big dollars to get a fast upload thing. Even with the uploads, if my video is like an hour long, because a lot of my videos are that long, it could take a couple hours to upload it. So after all the editing's done, then you got a couple hours of uploading it. You don't do anything, you just hit the button and then you just gotta wait until it's done uploading. Hour and a half to 2 hours, let's say, on average. And then I schedule it. Typically for whatever day, is usually at least a day in advance, because I know it's going to take that long to clean up the visuals from YouTube. And then you get to see it. So yeah, it's a long, drawn-out process for anyone that's looking to do YouTube. It's not that, it's relatively easy once you get the procedure down, but you got to develop your own procedures and how you want to deal with things. So how we doing here? We've ridden about 6 miles. I got a whiles to go. This thing is not going to. It's not going to be an easy way to drop this battery down. I'd like to at least see 4 out of the 5 bars on the battery meter. Even though I know the meters don't really mean a whole lot of anything, but at least it gives me some type of idea. But yeah, I figure 10 miles at least. Got to rack up at least 10 miles to do that. So the last couple of days I've been doing these rides just to bring the battery levels down. So we don't get to go any place other than around the local streets and the like. Yesterday, as I was riding 3 of the bikes, I was noticing all the bugs that were flying up against me. And I also noticed that they put a lot of insecticide down in the forest preserve areas. I think that's probably the thing that was kicking up the bugs, but it was really bad. I mean, I get a bug hitting me in the face every few seconds. I mean, you could feel it. And then when the sun hit it just right, I could actually see them. I could see those little bugs flying around, trying to get away from the insecticide. So how's the Himiway actually doing? Well, it rides really smooth, I'll say that. Although I think this bike could probably benefit from a little higher rise on the handlebar stem. I may end up having to buy the same thing I did with the Magicycle commuter bike, a stem that actually is adjustable, and then actually I can raise it up a little bit because I can tilt it. Then I wouldn't be leaning forward as much, because I am leaning a little bit forward more than I actually prefer to be on this bike. Nothing wrong with the bike. I'm just saying that, based on your own physical things, that sometimes some bikes are a little bit angled a little bit more for certain body types than others. And this happens because I have my saddle so high up, because I do want a full extension when I pedal. I don't want to be scrunched up when I'm pedaling. So I'm still debating whether I want to do that or not. Every little thing adds a few dollars. It's not a whole lot. I think it's probably within, less than $20 to do that. More than likely, it's worth doing it, but every little thing requires a little bit of attention, Fix the brakes, raise the stem, and then you have to wonder too whether you're going to keep a certain bike long enough to make it worth your while to do it. I mean, if this was my one and only bike, I would absolutely do it, or one of two bikes, I would absolutely do it. But we've got a number of bikes to ride, so it's not like I have to be perfect on every single bike. Because if I did that, then it would be, it would be costly. I mean, I did change out saddles on every single bike. I never ended up keeping any of the stock saddles, although a couple of them actually had some pretty decent saddles that came with the bikes. The Himiway one was actually pretty nice, but I decided, well, I do have one extra one, so I might as well put it on there. I mean, what's the point of having it and not using it? And in this way, every saddle is essentially the same, except for a couple of them which have the giddy up saddles. All the other ones have the bikeroo saddles in there. The giddy up saddle actually is a lot more comfortable. Yeah, it's probably the most comfortable saddle. I mean, it's kind of weird looking in the sense that there's this is really kind of wide. But it's that extra width that's really making the big difference on it. I mean, it really has no support on the wings. I call them the wings. It's the widest parts of the saddle. It's mostly in the center where the support is, and so those extra wings are just kind of like there to kind of cradle you a little bit, but it doesn't really do much of the actual hard support because there's nothing underneath it. It's kind of like a stingray wing, If you look at a stingray, you see those little floppy wings. It's kind of like that, right? But it is pretty comfortable, I would say that. It's sitting on the Magicycle Cruiser right now. I think I may just leave it there. The other one they gave me is sitting on the Ocelot Pro. That's the more traditional saddle. It's not as cushy as the big extra large saddle. I mean, it's still got cush to it, but and even more so than a typical bikeroo. At least the bikeroos I have now, those things are kind of stiff. Don't know why they did it that way. They changed foam or something. I have no idea. It's not as good as the other ones that I had before. So I just waved to the police, and he waved right back. Told you. The thing is, if you are in your own communities and you wave to the police officers that patrol that community, eventually they will get to know you. They may not have typical interaction with you, but they will start recognizing, oh, there's the guy with the bike again, you know. And yeah, I think it's actually a good thing that you get to know them. And then if you have a problem with anything, they'll be there to help you because they'll remember you. I've run across a number of the police officers in this general area now. I'm sure I probably waved to every single one of them by now, the ones that patrol this particular area. So it's not like they won't know who I am if I ever had an issue. You know, like if I'm broken down somewhere and I'm off to the side, I'll bet you anything they'd come over and say, hey, you doing okay? Everything's okay? But if you don't get to know the local police in your area, you know, you're just a number to them too. So just my thoughts. Let's see. 8.2 miles. We're still at 5 bars out of 5. But you got to remember too that some of these meters, these battery meters, like I said, you can't really trust them because some of them were giving me 5 bars out of 5 for a lot of range, and then all of a sudden everything starts dropping. I can't recall what this one was doing. I have to go back and look at my old reviews. We've gone through so many, I can't recall which bike did what. You know, somebody said you're going to have to start making a spreadsheet of the data that you've collected on your bike so that you know what each bike can do. Yeah, you might be right. I think you're right. We're going to have to make a spreadsheet of range, characteristics of the bikes, all that kind of stuff. Squirrels like to play chicken with me. You know, they kind of run out, they stop, they run, they stop, they run, they stop, and then they think about it, and then they got to decide: do I run back? Do I run forward? It's that hesitation that does them in. That's why we see so many dead squirrels sometimes get run over. All right, 8.6 miles. We're still going. It feels kind of funny to try to drain the battery, and then when you get home and you swap it, go to the next bike or whatever, and you don't charge up that other bike that you just used. Because I've always charged up my bikes after I was done with them. It's like, oh, I'm done with it. Let me just leave it. Do nothing. Yeah, it feels a little strange that way. There is a kind of a wattage usage meter right underneath the battery meter. So once you power up with the throttle, you can see that thing pegged to the full maximum. All right, now it's finally dropped 1 bar out of the 5 for the battery. Okay, we'll ride around a little bit more, and then I'll call it quits for this bike. Anyways, if you like this video, if it helped you out a little bit in the audio part and the video part of how to do your own recordings, put a comment in the comments. If you like the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. I'll talk to you guys next time.